Live. Okay, so welcome everybody. This is a Sport Tech Live, and we have today a special guest. There is a bit of a noise coming from when you're breathing, so if you can manage your breathing, Aviv. We have.
I'm just very excited to be here. I mean, this is
thank you very much, and we are excited to have you. Aviv will present himself, but for me, he's always a great example for an entrepreneur that brings tons of creativity and out of the box thinking. After managing to successfully sell his startup to Intel in a very nice check, probably not big enough, looking in hindsight, I'm sure, but still very, and also started a new venture a year and a half ago, and facing the Corona challenges, as we all. And this day, I wanted to hear from you because I know that usually you have a different way of looking at things, different processes, different mindsets, and I'm interested to know if you can share with us some of your insights, some of your actions, some of your game plan with regards to now, please.
Okay, great. Thank you, Amir. Actually, we've been working together for like 3 years or so, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
So we go way back. Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Aviv Shapira, aerospace engineer by profession, and this is now my fourth startup, number 4. Actually, I didn't really come from sports tech, which always proved to me that you can really do whatever you want to do in life. Just dream of something and get it. I live in Tel Aviv, 38. I have 3 daughters that are with me today in these crazy Corona days at home. And for the last 10 years, I've been dealing with a very interesting technology solution to allow people to experience remote locations live. And how is this related to sports? So as many of you know, a company called Replay Technologies, which was sold to Intel. What we did is allowed people from remote to enter virtually, enter stadiums and see the game from every possible angle. And the vision was always selling millions of tickets virtually to every game. And I have to say, that was the vision, and reality had its own way. We were quite reliant on VR and AR solutions, and back at 2015, 16, there weren't really the VR market didn't really take off. So we had to improvise. We had to change the business model. We had to change the mission plan, and we started doing viewing enhancements for sports. As some of you know, it's called today the Intel TrueView, showing games, showing content from around the venue.
This is just so I give a practical example of what you've done. Your company did, if we look at let's say a Super Bowl game, or if we look at I would say the Classico, when they moved from different angles, and you can see Messi from almost 360 degrees. You've done this technology to enable us to see this from all angles, and maybe to see it even from the helmet of Tom Brady.
Yeah, we actually won an Emmy Award for showing the game from Tom Brady's point of view in the Super Bowl. That was pretty cool. That was our vision coming to life. And I think 6 months later, we sold the company to Intel. I have to say, we sold the company without a clear business model, without any real revenues, obviously without any relevant multiplications on the revenue side. But it fit exactly what the buyer wanted. It made the Intel brand what it is. I mean, this is something that take the stock of Intel and basically changes it by a few percentages, and that's enough.
Yeah.
And this is what they were looking for.
Yeah. So this is a little bit about what you've done until the new startup that you have now, XTEND. Why people are asking, why did you start it all over again? What's wrong with you?
So it took me about 3 months after leaving Intel to understand that I'm not really good being unemployed. So I actually tried to start like 5 startups together. It wasn't a good idea. When they tell you to focus, they're right. You need to focus on one thing, on one startup at least. So we opened a new startup. It's called XTEND. Our vision with XTEND is basically quite similar. So it's allowing people to connect in an interactive way to remote locations in real time. And this time we're not doing it through video reconstruction like we did with Replay. We're connecting between humans and machines. So think about a machine out there somewhere, let's say in the Grand Canyon, and you actually want to visit the Grand Canyon. So you put your VR on your head, the VR headset, you connect to your remote machine, and you find yourself in the Grand Canyon. This is what we're doing. We're actually focused on homeland security and defense markets today. We're not limited to that market, but this is where we are today as a global focus. And the idea is to de-risk human lives. So as a soldier, as a police officer, I can send a machine instead of me into battle. I can be inside that machine and do everything from remote. That's
Good.
XTEND.
So that's what you're doing now. So let's talk about Corona because our audiences are out there, and I think most of them are, if we look at the startups world, it's, very challenging now. Where are the revenues going to come from? What's happening to sales? A lot of question mark and very little acceleration points. Yeah, a lot of question marks. Fundraising. What is your game plan? Where are you?
Okay, so first of all, let me share with you some things. It's probably global, but how did the corona affect us? So first of all, everyone or almost everyone started to work from home, which changed the entire atmosphere, the entire processes of how you work together as a company. Extend has 20 employees across Israel and the United States. So for us, 20 employees remotely is a whole different ball game. It's if we used to have like a daily sync in the morning, drink coffee together, even eat breakfast and eat lunch, it's everything is different. So taking care of company culture is very important. And I would say that things have changed with the corona. The first thing that changed is our customers are not in Israel, and we're now in Israel. So what do we do? So the first thing we did is relocate 2 employees to the US, and that allowed us to be closer to the customers. I have to say that move has been very, very successful. Looking at it from probably like 5 weeks into this Corona crisis.
You
But
want
that
to maybe mention that you managed to raise money just before the corona happened, so you're quite lucky on this side.
Yeah, we were quite privileged. It's not like that. We didn't have a prophecy of what's going on, but we did notice that something is changing because we work with some Chinese manufacturers. We noticed that something is happening in the world. They're not as responsive as they were before. We decided to raise a safe, a convertible note, and actually we closed that very, very quickly. The company didn't really meant to raise money at that time, but we raised $2.5 million. We closed it like in a week, and then the corona started. So we were quite lucky to do that. But because the corona is more severe than we thought, we decided now to increase the raise, and it's also possible. I can tell you that first of all, your existing investors, if you have them, they're the first one who should put money in on the table, and that should be followed by external investors. Um, and I know it's very tough, probably for all of you to deal with this crisis with financing. So try to find places where you can really cut expenses. It's very common today to reduce salaries and maybe exchange the salaries into ESOPs, into options. That's one possibilities.
Yeah.
Another option is just cutting people down. It's not easy. It's never easy. But if you have to survive, and if you have to keep the company running in the future, then do that. I can tell you that in Replay, much before we knew about what is Corona, 2014, we were about 10 people in the company, and we lost all of our money just because we didn't plan the cash flow properly, and we thought that what we did in the Olympics was relevant to baseball and to football. We lost all of our money. We weren't able to raise money. So what we did is basically, we sent everyone home. No one received salaries, and we gave them
This is
this.
2014.
Yeah, and we gave. It sounds like Corona, right? And we gave
Yeah.
them this. We gave them this conversion of taking your salaries to the current valuation of the company, so the employees actually like loan money to the company, and they will get it as options. And I have to say that every one of the employees kept on working, and it took us about 4 or 5 months, and we raised money. It showed also the
So
investors that
4 5 months.
everyone.
Let me just make sure that it's clear. 4 5 months in 2014,
Yeah,
when there was no corona, you managed to get
yeah.
your employees to work without salary from home
No,
or still office.
not from home. No, from the office.
Okay, office,
No
but
corona.
without no salaries
Hmm.
to get some kind of futuristic options.
Yeah, and it paid off for them. Every one of those 10 employees are now pretty wealthy. So that was a good move by them. So it's hard to compare, but if you give your employees the right motivation, and the right understanding, if you help us survive this crisis, and it's not like they're gonna find work somewhere else. Just keep on working, make the company survive. You have to understand. I mean, companies that will survive this will be able to survive almost anything afterwards. This Corona is going to be filtered to many companies.
Yeah,
Those who survive, not necessarily because of money, by the way. There's some
yeah,
companies who do have money, but lost all of their customers. And I think this is the time. This is the time to understand. What is the world like, especially in sports? What is the world like after the Corona?
yeah.
Um, I'm sure
Yes,
I'm sure you know better than me what the world is going to be like. Less people in venues, more viewing enhancements online. So
yeah.
everything around that probably is more enhanced.
Yeah, I think as you said, the world, when they say, let's go back to routine, I think forget about routine. There is no
Yeah.
going back to normal life.
No,
This is a new game. This is a new world. Everything, as I see it, it's like a reshuffle of the cards.
it's
When in reshuffling, yeah.
no, go ahead.
So when reshuffle, like the opportunities are so vast that the small can be big and the big can even become small. It's so
I
big. If you look at customer behavior, yeah. If you look at automation, the openness to automation now, the process of automation, uh, what people are willing to get in terms of virtual activities. You mentioned earlier that you have the virtual tickets concept. We are now looking at ghost games, that they call them now, games without fans. I know already startups that are looking now at creating a virtual tickets, so you can be in different places in the stadium, as you said, and see different angles and pay a little bit extra for that. And
Yeah.
what will the experience will be in terms of making sure that it will be like a full house? Because even after they will bring back the fans into the stadium, it's still probably not going to be a full stadium. So how do you fill it in? Are you using, there's so many new opportunities and also
Mhm.
enhanced opportunities where you can take as a startup your product and make it a little bit, give it I would say, the post-corona pivot. Now, you mentioned that in the preparation call we've done, you said you took some products and you changed them, or you did some modification. Can you elaborate on this?
Yes. So you mentioned something very true. I mean, Stadiums is probably one of the first thing which is gonna suffer. I think they've suffered even before the corona. I mean, people are not going to venues as they would, and now it's gonna be even more obvious. So how do venue owners will monetize the venue itself? What are you gonna do with venues, sports venues? That's a big problem, an even bigger problem. But I would say that, and maybe I'll go to XTEND as an example. XTEND is a company that has a technology which doesn't necessarily fit one market. So look at your technology and try to understand what other markets can this technology serve. I'm pretty sure that if you think outside the box, there's at least one more market technology can serve. And understanding the sports is one of the first things which is affected by Corona. Perhaps you can help something else. Maybe you can help, homeland security. Maybe you can help defense, city councils, medical assistant. Maybe you can do something that is relevant today. You don't have to wait, for another 3 months or so for this Corona to pass. I want to give two more points for your consideration as well. One thing is that analysis shows that this corona or this virus effect is going to happen it's going to be a cycle now. Every few months or so, or every 6 months, we're going to have another corona 2, corona 3. Yeah.
Ooh,
So what are we going to do? Is sports gone now for a few years?
ooh.
Yeah, this is one thing.
Hold on. Let us breathe this in for a second. What you just said. What do you mean? Like there will be a new virus coming every, once or twice a year?
Yeah, the previous diseases in 19, I think 18, and the one in 1935, they all had three waves. So there's no reason why here there are going to be three waves. The second wave, by the way, was the strongest in all cases, and that's one point. The second thing I would
Yeah.
say is that something which is relevant for probably most of you. I'll give a number from Israel, but it's relevant for all countries. So 85% of all funding for startups in Israel, 85% comes from abroad, mostly from the US and from Europe. So those of you in Israel, you need to know that 85% of funding in Israeli startups is not going to be relevant, not going to be available for the next at least 6 months. You're not going to be able to go to Silicon Valley, raise money to New York. So most likely, investors there are going to invest in U.S. startups and not in Israeli startups. So this is relevant, I guess, for all countries outside the U.S. where the biggest VC community is. Um, so what this means for us specifically is that we assume that we're doing round A in about a year from now. So now we're planning to do it in a year and a half from now. Just understanding that we're not going to be able to raise money so soon. So this is also very important to understand.
All right. So you
I know, I
took,
know, I know it sucks, but we have to.
yeah. By the way, I disagree, if I may. I think that
Yeah,
brilliant companies like yourself, if you're willing to compromise on the valuation a little bit, you will be able to find good investors now and more in the next few months when things are settling in a little bit. So investors, most of them have money now, and they need to invest, and the smart people will look for good companies with reasonable valuations, which they couldn't find earlier. I know now great companies that we can invest in a different valuation altogether than it was 3 months ago.
yeah.
So,
No,
but
you're right.
it's always if you want to keep the valuation game and you're waiting for the market to really be strong again, maybe that's
So,
another game plan.
well, one thing I learned about valuation, and this is something I can give you as a tip. Founders always fear of getting diluted. I can tell you that in replay, we gave something like 50% of the company very very early on, just because no one believed that any Tel Aviv startup would be able to conquer the US sports market. It didn't make sense. Making a technology that it's not a must-have technology. It doesn't solve any problem. So we did compromise on valuation, And I have to tell you that at the end, once you get to probably, I don't know, 5%, 6%, whatever, investors are going to help you with options to get you undiluted. So, don't be afraid to get a, I would say, like a down round today. I mean, it's not the end of the world. At the end of the day, once this crisis will pass, you'll be able to take some ease-ups from the company and take that as a condition for following investments.
That's a very good one. So
Yeah.
investors, as you say, startups and entrepreneurs, it's not it's not crazy to do a down round now, to reduce the valuation for this period, to get you money to go past it, so you can survive it, you can win it, and then you can come back and raise money then on a higher valuation.
Yeah. This is survival time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Let's talk a little bit about sales and marketing. Some people are, when I talk to startups, say they are on hold. Are not sure whether it's the right time to sell now at all. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm sure we're talking mostly to sports startups, right?
Yeah.
So those of you in esports are lucky, right? I mean, this is the time. Esport is now the sport. I don't know the statistic, by the way. I don't know if you know it, but I'm pretty sure that it's going up, right? I mean,
Esports is, as you say, it's the time now. There are some esport players which were focusing on physical events, which are suffering, But overall, if we were
yeah,
looking that the esport industry will worth $30 billion in 5 years, we are looking now for this period to be shorter, so like 2.5, 3 years to be worth $30 billion. That's one of the fastest verticals
yeah,
growing now in tech overall.
yeah. It makes sense. So those of you who are not in esports, I would say, remember that your customers are also sitting at home. So this is the time to work with them if you can. I always believed in, developing products in a closed loop with customers. So perhaps they have more time. Think about it on the positive note. If you can get yourself in front of customers in Zoom, try to work with them on building the product that will be ready when this crisis is over. Actually, never gave it some thought because I'm not in sports tech, but when I think about it, I mean, if people are still working, people in FIFA, people in the people in venues, people in the teams in the networks, try to find time to work with them. This is actually the most quiet time they had since since they started. So I
I
would
know,
say this
I
is an
know
opportunity.
you've done this with the previous company you sold to Intel, where you worked closely with some of your customers. Can you explain how you managed to achieve it? Because I think it's a great point. Because I'm now, when I'm speaking to CEOs of clubs and
Yeah,
other partners, they are now more available. They have more time to talk about strategically, to talk about digitalization of their clubs and federation and businesses. They suddenly are not in the day-to-day loop.
yeah.
What was your experience of building a product together with a strategic partner, for example? How did you manage to knock on their doors?
So I can give an example from replay here. So when we did the first thing we did in replay is the Olympics, and in the Olympics we worked very closely with the Olympic Broadcasting Services (OBS) in Madrid, and together we defined this product that would make sense, that would give relevant content for people to use, statistics and so on. But then we tried to do our own product in baseball, and that really didn't really work out. It was kind of boring. It didn't give a new real enhancement to the game. They called us the one trick pony, and I can tell you this is exactly where we lost our money. And then we met someone very special. His name is Fred Gadelli. He's a producer in NBC. Produces I think it's Monday night or Sunday night football for NBC. And he took our product and actually adapted it, made all the right adaptations in order to make it right for football. He gave us also a chance. He said,
American football.
Yeah, American football. This is what you need to do. These are these are the camera angles. This is what I want to see. This is the content. If you're able to do this, I'm going to give you opportunity to be, on prime time on the air, and I'm even going to give you, I'm going to give you money for it. So this is how we picked up things together. This is how we raised money again. Existing investors gave us some more money as a last chance, I would say. And together with Fred, we managed to be on the air in Dallas Cowboys or AT&T. It's called today AT&T Arena or the AT&T Stadium in Arlington, in Texas. And we did it. I mean, once we had someone like a beacon, like someone who really understands the sports, defining the product for us. We were like the tech side. It was the more creative and product side, and together we brought something really amazing to the world. And
Yeah, I
we won
think
an Emmy for it. So
I remember a few years when we talked about, you mentioned that one of the problems of startups, and I think you related probably to your experience with Replay, is that they have their idea of solution that the customers needs, and the customer has their idea, which is not always matching. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't
What
match.
you've done here and what with your example is
Yeah,
you manage to be in line with the customer and understand exactly what they need and do the amendments. And this
yeah,
time with the corona around us, it's probably a great time if you can as
yeah.
a startup to
No, I actually think I didn't think about this before the call, but this is a great opportunity to catch that Fred Gadelli. He's probably at home. He's not producing footballs again, him specifically, but try to catch those people and really work with them on the next product. This is very
yeah.
important.
And some of them are ex very senior people in federations and that are probably now not working, but they can be a huge asset to each startup if you
Yeah.
find them and you manage to enroll them. Now we may have time for a couple of questions to Aviv. Aviv, I love to ask this question to you each time we talk. So I think we have a lot of startups here. If you can, you sold your company, you're now already running a very successful company on its way, I believe, to be a unicorn. Can you share like 3 top, I would say, lessons you've learned that you would like to pass on to entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I'll try to give three new tips this time. So I would
Okay.
try first of all to emphasize, what we said before. Don't think you know everything. Work with the customer. Always try to understand what they want and work around their needs. You don't know the game as much as they know the game. It doesn't matter how good you are or if you came from sports. They have different requirements which change every day. I like to call it development in a closed loop with customers. Second thing is, I want to emphasize again, don't be afraid to being diluted and raise money only for what you need. Don't do like a big round. Again, today it's different, but usually, if you need $2 million, don't do a $5 million round. Things change all the time. Um, Another one around that is also, I like working with venture capitals, but angels are much easier for the sports tech market. If you can work with angels in parallel to VCs, that's a very important tip I can give you. Again, from my experience, one thing that I always tell entrepreneurs is that you have to understand that 99% of the time people are going to tell you no. It's not going to work. It's not a good idea. You're not going to raise money. I'm not going to give you money. I don't like the idea. I'm not going to use your idea. This is how it is. I mean, if it was easy, someone else would have done it before. And because you're unique, this is why you're getting no as an answer. People are used to their routine. People don't think outside the box. So just keep on fighting that wall, break it, go around it, and find your way with what you believe.
Yeah. I totally I'm totally in line with the last point of believe in what you do and getting the no's. And now when we look at the no's in the corona, it's even much more challenging. But as we started and by saying, I think if you bring the right energy and the right mindset, Yeah, there are so many, when you speak now to people, they are starting to look at new solutions. They are starting to move forward. So there are a lot of things bubbling. And I think the companies, the startups that will move fast now, will prepare themselves, will get the right products, which with the adjustment to the new reality, will get, as Aviv said, as you said, to get some partners from the industry that now can make you your product more accurate, better suited. Some of us ran companies which were not, it wasn't cracked till the end. We have now a present. We got a present where we can use this time to make it more accurate, make the business plan better, make the business model, better. Some of you, I know, are working in a very low margins. It's time to look at the business model and work with the right margins. Bring something that nobody has. So you don't need to survive. You can really scale up. And the people that will do this now, when the market will open up, will be in a pole position in all aspects. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Great. I would say, no, I would say, this is probably one of the toughest times we all had. So, good luck to everyone. Hope everyone survives this. And if not now, in the next startup, it's all good.
Yeah,
as long as you're healthy.
Looking at the fact that, yes, failure is not the end of the world, but I think it's all here now to make it happen. I want to thank you again, Aviv, for your the simple way you present the amazing stuff you've done. That's one, I think, of your the way you're special. Really great to have you here today, and I'm sure this was valuable to the audience and to the sport tech world. And thank you everybody for joining, and we'll see you next time on Sports Tech Live. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.